It's a privilege to preside over the ceremony that formally recognizes the accomplishments of Amy, Kathy, Steve, Greg, Dean, Emily, and Jan, all of whom were nominated by their peers or their supervisors. As we move forward here at the front table, you'll see Chief Thomas Smith, Mayor Chris Coleman, Chaplain Pat Judd, and Federation President Dave Titus. I checked with each of them a short time ago in their offices and asked if they were all right with my keeping their biographies short, not to diminish their accomplishments, but to highlight those of our nominees, and all agreed. Mayor Chris Coleman is the 45th mayor of the city of St. Paul. He took office in 2006. He's a lifelong resident, a community leader, and a former city council member. Would you please help me welcome Mayor Chris Coleman?
Thanks, Dave. That was the perfect length of introduction. Actually, I would even say that might be a little too long. You know, it's really great to see you all here, as it is every year. I get a chance to be at the Officer of the Year ceremony. Congratulations to our nominees for Officer of the Year and Civilian Employees of the Year. I really appreciate the fact that we also recognize the civilians that have made a tremendous contribution to public safety in the city of St. Paul. As the commander said, every one of you, every day you do your job, you work hard on behalf of all the residents of the city of St. Paul. That's why we have a great city. It's why we have a safe city. We're not incident-free. We all understand that. But I don't think that there's any one of us in this room that would trade the city of St. Paul or trade your job on the St. Paul Police Department for any other department in this country. Maybe in the middle of January you would think about going someplace warm, working for a department in Palm Springs perhaps, but those thoughts are fleeting, and then when the sun comes out in the spring, you remember why it is that you work for this department and you work for the city. I also want to just take a second to thank Dave Titus and the members of the Federation that have been going up to the Capitol this last couple of months, really fighting on behalf of all of us in the city of St. Paul, trying to fight to make sure that we have the resources to have a strong department, make sure that we have the resources to support not just the men and women in blue, but the city attorney's office that does their job prosecuting it. Doesn't do a whole lot of good if you arrest the bad guys and we don't have city attorneys that can prosecute those cases or county attorneys that can prosecute those cases. So critically important that we have that partnership. Dave, thank you so much for being there. Just great to see that all of us are rallying on behalf of our city. These are challenging times. There's no question that our country and our state are facing difficult financial times. There's no question that we are going to struggle to figure out how to balance budgets. No one has the right answer, clearly. I hope that we can get beyond some of the rhetoric of all of this. But at the end of the day, no matter how the dust settles, I hope that we never forget that the #1 job and the #1 mission of our community is to provide for public safety. It is to provide the resources that you all need to do your job. And you can talk about strength of force, and that's important. You can talk about numbers of officers on the street. But as the chief and I have talked about on a number of occasions, it's more than that. It's making sure that you have the latest and the best equipment, and that equipment is functional. It's making sure that you have the best and latest training techniques, and you get a chance an opportunity to go out to the range on a regular basis. You get a chance to go through training exercises on a regular basis. Because as I said last year in my my budget address, I never want to send you out without the best equipment, without the best training, without the best resources to make it possible for you to do your job. So we're going to continue to fight on behalf of all of you. We're going to continue to fight on behalf of the folks that are out there putting their lives on the line every day, risking their lives on behalf of the residents of the city of St. Paul. Today we honor all the nominees who have stood out and really been recognized for their extraordinary efforts, and that's fit and right to do. But remember that when we honor any one of you, we honor all of you for the service that you put in for the city of St. Paul. When we honor any one of you, we recognize the efforts of all of you that you do every day 365 days a year under difficult circumstances, but in a great city that just keeps on getting better. So thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Keep on fighting, keep on being strong, and congratulations to all our honorees and nominees today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker here. Chief Thomas Smith began his career with the St. Paul Police Department 21 years ago, and he's the 40th chief of our department, taking office in June of 2010. Prior to becoming chief, he worked his way up through the ranks and held the position of Assistant Chief of Operations under then Chief and now Senator John Harrington. Chief Smith is also a lifelong resident with many ties to the community that he serves. He volunteers at the Boys and Girls Club on the West Side and co-leads a mentoring program at Humboldt High School. One of those positions, I believe he actually works for his wife. But. The 2010 award ceremony is Chief Smith's first. Please join me in welcoming Chief Tom Smith.
Now with all that clapping, do you have some left for the real deal here? Just want to make sure we have plenty of claps here for what we're going to do. Thanks to all our partners and everybody for being here today. It's just great to see so many people. We have over 200 people here. So let's do one thing because you've got it out of your system. Let's everybody give yourself a round of applause. Let's do that. Thank you for being here. And I do that because partnerships are important, and we're just happy that you're all here to celebrate the fine work of our officers here today. I'm going to keep this going here so that everybody, I know you're all excited to go back to work, so I want to keep everybody here, but I want to start with a quick quote, and it simply says, it's from Barbara Boxer. Law enforcement officers are never off duty, and they truly never are. They are dedicated public servants who are sworn to protect the public at any time, any place that the peace is threatened. Well, you're going to hear today about some great work by our officers and our civilian employees that help to keep our city the most livable city in America and keep all our residents safe. And with that, we're going to get right into this. Now we will recognize the Civilian Employee of the Year finalist. The two finalists this year are Emily DeBrew and Janice Peterson. And I'm only going to read little snapshots of the great work that these individuals do for our department, so please look, you'll see the entire citation in your programs. Emily started with fire in 1985 as a clerk typist. Came to the St. Paul Police, came to police in 1994 as a telecommunicator and worked her way through the ECC ranks. She was promoted to ECC shift supervisor in 2004. Emily was instrumental in coordinating the training of the ECC employees, and let me stop so everybody knows, because we're on cable TV as well. ECC stands for Emergency Communications Center. Just in case somebody didn't know, we're in the police department, we talk about acronyms all day long, so everybody knows what the ECC is. Again, Emily was instrumental in coordinating the training for the ECC employees during the transition from the city to the county. She taught both new personnel and current staff the phone and radio systems. She also prepares the new hire training sessions for the ECC right now, which is run by the county. But for those of us in the St. Paul Police Department, we know Emily as a friend. Emily has a lot of ties, a lot of friendships, has done a fantastic job for us as St. Paul police officers, because we truly can't do our job without those caring people at the ECC. We have a lot of people from the Emergency Communications Center here today. We love you guys because you keep us safe, and Emily, you always do a fantastic job, so thank you. Next is Janice Peterson. Jan started with the St. Paul Police Department in 2001 as an office assistant 2 in our records unit. She worked in Central and then was advanced to office assistant 3 in 2008 and transferred to the Force unit. Jan has done some excellent work in Force. She answers approximately 2,000 calls annually from citizens who have complaints about problem properties, and then opens a file on each one. When Force was decentralized in 2010, Jan searched old case files from the 1990s, God, I was there in the 1990s, that's dating myself, determining what could be purged and what should be kept. She then sorted those by district so force investigators would have the files that pertain to their area. Jan is, this force unit does a lot of work. Again, this is a snapshot. Jan is probably one of the most friendly employees we have in the St. Paul Police Department. Everybody that knows Jan here knows when you have an issue, if you just want to talk to her, she's always got great advice. She's always has a smile on her face. Sometimes she comes up and works in the chief's office. And even if you're feeling down, there's just something bubbly about Jan that makes you feel good. That's for us. But imagine being one of those 2,000 callers that calls because you've got a problem property somewhere in the city next door to your house. Imagine how upset you might be. Jan is a calming force. She gets the relevant information so the force officers can go out and really do their job and help again make our city a safer place. So it gives me great pleasure, the winner of the 2010 Civilian Employee of the Year Award is going to go to Jan Peterson.
Great, I get to go first and get it over with. Well, now I'm speechless. Now, thank you very much. I'm honored to stand here today, and I just want to congratulate the other people who were finalists also. When I first received the letter from the chief's office in the mail, I was kind of nervous, thinking, great, what did I do now? But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that I was nominated for the award. Later in the week, I emailed some family members and decided to ask them if they wanted to attend the luncheon, and my sweet sister-in-law answers, wow, that's great, impressive, good work. My brother replies, I'll go if it's free food. And my sister, who's never at a loss for words, emails me back, OMG, whose boots did you polish? Just for that, those two are paying for their own lunch. I'm an old East Sider. I grew up about a mile away from here, and my dad still lives down the road. I went to Harding. My first job was a dairyette. That's why I'm always pushing the Italian food. I worked at the Rickshaw, the River Serpent. If you don't know that, it used to be on Harriet Island. I worked at 3M, Studio 94. I mean, I was around. Then I advanced to Summit Manor, and I did work at William Mitchell College of Law. But I got bored with the city of St. Paul and packed my bags and moved to the Virgin Islands. I lived there for 5 years, and it was fun and exotic and exciting. But you know what? 83 and sunny does get old after a while. I'm telling you this because I miss St. Paul. I miss my family, my friends, the old neighborhood, the change of seasons. I missed a clean city that I felt safe in, and St. Paul is that beautiful, safe, clean city with lots of character. The person who influences me the most, and I want to give a special thanks to, is Sergeant Ford. He's a wonderful role model for the officers. He's fair, understanding, and he treats everybody with respect. He lets you do your job, but he also lets you know when something needs to change, and he'll address it tactfully. Thanks, Paul. Did I tell you I'm leaving for Vegas next week? I would also like to, but I don't have, I can't thank every single person who's helped me along the way. I would like to thank you, but there's too many of you. I have a lot of role models here and mentors, and I appreciate all of your help. But I can tell you that I learn something every day from every person I work with. You never know who's watching you and what they'll learn from your actions, so always do the right thing. And for all the guys that hit the streets every day and you never get so much as a thank you, well, I'm thanking you for what you do, and I have total respect for all the officers that work here. And if that's the only thank you get today, then I hope it makes your week. And my dad, Gene, 81 years old, and I can hardly keep up with him. He loves the outdoors, snowmobiling, four-wheeling, jet skiing, and it has rubbed off on me. Come over, say hi to my dad. I talk about him all the time at work, so you probably already feel like you know him. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take
And if Emily DeBrew can come up, let's give her a round of applause for honorable mention. Next up is Detective of the Year award. And the two finalists this year are Sergeant Greg Gravison and Officer Dean Keenan. A little bit about Sergeant Greg Gravison. Greg started with us in 2000 and was promoted to sergeant in 2007. He has worked in all the districts, traffic and accident, and most recently he's assigned to the crime lab. Sergeant Gravison's knowledge and skill in recreating major crime scenes and vehicle accidents have earned our department great respect and admiration across the nation. He produces high-quality, professional depictions of crime scenes that can be used as evidence. Juries can now visually see what occurred in an organized manner that they can easily understand. His recreations show the facts of the case in terms of angles, distances, all those things that none of us really understand, and speed and location of evidence at the scene. But I think most of us, off the notes, know that Greg is someone who is always asked for assistance, not just by us in the St. Paul Police Department, but by other departments as well. He's an expert in his field, and he has helped the Ramsey County Prosecution Unit do some phenomenal things as far as some real serious crimes in the city of St. Paul, not just traffic accidents. So Greg really brings a lot of passion, and we're very lucky to have him with the St. Paul Police Department. Next is Little Officer Dean Keenan. I don't know who put little here. We'll talk about that. Dean started with us in 1994. He has spent most of his career in East and the Force Unit. In late 2009, Dean was on a task force that was established to work on a burglary ring. The case started with 2 primary suspects and ended up with 117 people being involved. The investigation resulted in the recovery of a large amount of stolen property and firearms. Officer Keenan also helped recover the DNR trophy wildlife mounts that all of you saw in the paper and the media not that long ago that were stolen earlier this year. But most importantly, he helped find a missing child that was in the back seat of a stolen car and then left out in the cold by a suspect a few months ago that we all saw. Now let me tell you something about little Dean, who's a big man. Now, we all know Dean. When he walks in the room, he commands attention. He's 6'6". I won't say how much he weighs because he might get upset at me. How much do you weigh, Dean? No, he's dropping a lot of weight. He looks good. But it's not Dean's size that really counts. I got to tell you, it's the size of this guy's heart. The work that he does, especially when it came to the baby case that we all heard about. A parent runs inside the house and all of a sudden, within seconds, a car is stolen and a small child in the back seat is taken away. I mean, we had Amber Alerts. This was a big, huge thing in our city. So, first off, we wanted to find and recover the baby, which we did. But second off, we wanted to hold that perpetrator, that suspect, to justice. Because of Dean's contacts throughout the city, because he's worked with just thousands of people, he had somebody come forward to give him information that we could relate to our investigators to solve this case and bring that perpetrator to justice. It's his big heart. I've got to tell you that during Cops and Kids, every year we go down to United Children's Hospital to give gifts to kids that aren't going to get to go home for Christmas and some that are terminally ill. And I had the opportunity to go with Dean and his family this year, had his daughter there as well. And I got to tell you, the passion that he has for this is just bigger than life. So I don't care that Dean is 6'6". His passion for this job and for our city is just second to none. I know that Council President Lantry recently wrote me a letter about the great work Dean does with the Force Unit on problem properties in our city. And he solves a lot of problems by just talking to people. and I think that that's a unique skill. It gives me great pleasure to give the Detective of the Year Award to Officer Dean Keenan.
Well, I don't have a prepared speech like Jan. Holy, that's why we love Jan as our secretary, because she does take care of a lot of things for me, boy, I tell you. What an honor. It's just doing police work, but I sitting over there getting to reflect a little bit that being part of this department has been an honor. And one of the main reasons why is, I've had some health issues over the years, and one of the great things about our department, from Chief, Commander, Sergeant Ford, have allowed me to do things in positions where, I'm basically in plain clothes and pretty much taking care of me, and I appreciate that. Sergeant Ford, you know where your bread's buttered. I trained him in, now he's my boss in the 4th unit. And, but I do owe a lot to Sergeant Ford. He's taking care of me, and I really appreciate that. Going on to one of the cases with the burglary ring, myself and Sergeant Ferroni and Tom Arnold, Sandy Kennedy, and Dave Olag, we kind of put a task force together to go after these guys. And we had a small lunch meeting with, he was a sergeant at the time, Sergeant Winger, I believe, now commander. And I quote you as saying, "I dread the day that I ever met you at Born Journals about this case." But anyway, the last couple of years, I've got to work with my partner, Todd Ferroni, Sergeant Ferroni. I recognized you, see? And Officer Tom Arnold, two of the best cops I've ever been around. And, guys like that are the people who have taught me a lot of things, and I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all. I'd like to thank my family, my beautiful mother here, and my father who's not here. I might have to take back that big heart thing because he forgot his mom. You never forget mom, ever.
He doesn't.
Obviously, I'm very proud to give the Honorable Mention Award to Sergeant Greg Gravison. Greg, you want to come on up? Okay, now for the most important award. They're all important. Officer of the Year. The finalists for Officer of the Year this year are Acting Sergeant Amy Boyer, Officer Kathy O'Reilly, and Officer Steve Petron. Acting Sergeant Amy Boyer started in 1995 as a parking enforcement officer for our department. She became an officer in 1996. Amy has worked in East her entire career until she became an acting sergeant on January 15th this year in our Family Sexual Violence Unit. Officer Kathy O'Reilly started as an officer with our department in 1993. She has worked in all districts but mainly Eastern. Kathy transferred to the training unit on January 15th this year as an Academy Liaison Officer. Acting Sergeant Boyer and Officer O'Reilly identified suspects in a home repair fraud case that involved multiple elderly victims. By performing excellent police work, they produced leads that eventually led to the arrest of the suspects and uncovered crimes that crossed counties. Now, this started off with a bunch of rare coins being stolen, and you can imagine when you're a senior citizen and somebody violates your house, it's really traumatic. And I can tell you that you don't want Amy and Kathy, who were partners in East, after you if you've done something bad. I know that I don't. They're very quiet, especially Kathy. But from even my 3.5 years as an assistant chief, the one consistent that I always heard from their bosses and from the other officers, their peers on the street, going back to when Senior Commander was in charge of the district to now Senior Commander Joe Newberger, is that they do exceptional work. They have a true passion for this job. And you know what? That's something that we all espouse to have as St. Paul police officers. Officer Steve Petrin. I know Steve because I was actually a commander when he was brand new with the St. Paul Police Department in the Central District. Steve started with us as an officer in 2001. He has worked in Central District his entire career. He recently transferred to Central Force on January 15th. Officer Petron is well known and respected in the department for his consistent follow-through on every call and his ability to communicate information to all levels of the department. No matter the level of the crime, his efforts to find the suspects are extraordinary. He's a hunter. His report writing skills are excellent and set an example for others to follow. He is known to thoroughly search for evidence and has often found fingerprints that can be processed through the MAFAN database system. But Steve also does more than that. Steve's another one of our officers that truly has not only passion, but compassion for others, because I've seen his interactions with other people, especially when I was a commander in the Central District. He's kind of quiet, but he gets the job done in a loud way, because he does and is able to find people that do bad things in our city in a unique way, because he has a unique network of people that are willing to talk to him because they trust him. And that's really, really important. So the other thing about Steve is he was one of our original grid, getting residents involved daily on Rice Street in the Central District, which has been very, very, very popular. And they have really changed the look of the North End for the residents there. And winning the St. Paul Police Department's 2010 Police Officer of the Year Award this year are Amy Boyer and Kathy O'Reilly.
Now I'm little, Dean's big. Yeah. Funny, for those of you that don't know, Dean and I did work a partner car for some time, so I'm sure we look like Mutt and Jeff walking in. But as most of you know, Kathy and I have been blessed to work a partner car for many years together. We both grew up on the east side of St. Paul and take great pride in the city. On July 8th, when we responded to a burglary call, we had no idea it would be the first of many people victimized by the same group of suspects taking advantage of the elderly. The victims, Jack, who was 80 at the time, and Elaine, who was 77, invited us into their home to sit at the kitchen table. Jack told us about his years serving in World War II and how he had lived on the east side for many years. Jack became teary-eyed and said he couldn't believe what had just happened. Elaine was upset that her mother's wedding ring had been in the safe and was now gone. Jack and Elaine both went on to say that if the suspects needed help, all they needed to do was ask, and they would have given them what they needed. We had limited information, but all of our coworkers continued to help us locate the suspects in the days and months that followed. Day in and day out, while on duty and off duty, we continued to search for the suspects. We drove by addresses out of the city off duty in hopes of finding the vehicles we were searching for. This was a much larger effort than just Kathy and I. Officers on other shifts were also looking for the suspects while on tour. Officers also drove by addresses out of the city while on their way to and from work.
It was early fall when our efforts paid off and we found the main suspect vehicle. Kathy and I felt as though we had won the lottery. It all snowballed from there and we were able to locate several other victims in the metro area. Kathy and I are passionate about our work, and even though we didn't recover the family heirlooms belonging to Jack and Elaine, we were able to get restitution for the victims. I would like to personally thank Chief Smith and his staff for this award and accept it on behalf of all of our co-workers who made this incident happen. I would also like to thank my family and friends for supporting me when I had to just take one more drive by an address. Finally, I would like to thank my parents for always supporting me. Thank you.
There was a lot of discussion that went into who was going to talk here between me and Amy, because I'm the listener, she's the talker, and we decided that we would both say a few things, but only if she wrote hers on a piece of paper, because you know I have a hard time keeping her on task. So, with that, I want to thank you so much for this award. It is such a huge honor to be selected for Officer of the Year. We have always done our job for the satisfaction, not for the recognition. We are flattered that Sergeant Sheila Lambie and the command staff in East thought enough of our work to nominate us for this award. To be chosen as a finalist for Officer of the Year was an honor in and of itself. They say that if you do a job you really like, you will never have to work a day in your life. And that's how we feel. Though our days were usually long and sometimes hard, we always managed to remember the why and the who and what we wanted to see for the end result. These guys weren't going to get away with taking advantage of our elderly and vulnerable homeowners. I want to thank Chief Smith and the selection committee for selecting us for this award. We would like to thank current command staff in East as well as the Eastern District Sergeants. In particular, we would like to thank Commander Axel Henry, Sergeant Gail Porter, Sergeant Tom Schmidt, Sergeant Kurt Hallstrom, and Sergeant John Linson for giving us the freedom to do what needed to be done in order to catch these guys. Officer Sue Jones, for her willingness to always help out, knowing that it would likely lead to a huge mess with a ton of work. Sergeant Wanda LeBlanc Fricky, for her assistance and hard work. And to Senior Commander Bill Martinez for always supporting us in our work. Most importantly, we would like to thank the entire Eastern District, especially Tour 2. We share this award with every single one of you. I know it made for long summer days having to pick up the slack, but your support and your willingness to take on the extra call load made a difference. We would not be standing here today if not for you. Finally, I would like to thank my family and friends for being here, especially my mom, who flew in from Arizona. Thanks, Mom, for instilling in me good morals and values and teaching me that what's right is right. Thank you.
You notice Kathy remembered her mom right away, Dean. Talk after here. It gives me great pleasure to award the honorable mention to Steve Petron. Steve, will you come on up?
As we draw close to the ceremony here, there'll be a receiving line off to the right here in front of the flags. The award recipients and the honorees can step up here to be congratulated. The line will form along the back wall for those of you that are listening yet. But by all means, come on up here. Have a good afternoon.